The smell of cleaning fluid filled Do-hyun Kim's nose as he mopped the steel floor of Space Station Horizon's main corridor. 5 years ago, he would have laughed if someone had told him he'd end up here. Back then, he had been one of Earth's best pilots, flying the newest defense fighters through the asteroid belts. Now he pushed a mop around a space station. "Sector 7 needs cleaning," Kim crackled his radio. Someone spilled their coffee in the science lab again. "I'll be there in 10 minutes, Do-hyun replied, trying to keep the tiredness out of his voice. He looked out through the huge windows into space. A small ship was coming into dock, its engines glowing blue against the darkness. His hands tightened around the mop handle. He could still remember exactly how it felt to fly a ship like that. The accident wasn't his fault. Do-hyun had saved his whole squadron that day by going against orders. But the higher-ups didn't see it that way. They took away his pilot's license and gave him two choices: desk work on Earth or maintenance job on a space station. He chose space. At least up here, he could still see the stars. "You're thinking about flying again, aren't you?" Do-hyun turned to see Jae-ho Lee, his only real friend on the station, walking toward him with a toolbox. Jae-ho worked in maintenance too, fixing things instead of cleaning them. He was the only person who didn't treat Do-hyun like a failure. "The simulator's free tonight," Jae-ho said with a smile. "Captain Nae-young is busy with the new cargo shipments. She won't notice if you use it for a few hours." The flight simulator was old and dusty, nothing like the real ships Do-hyun used to fly. But it was better than nothing. Every night, when most of the station slept, he would sneak into the training room and practice. He kept his pilot's license renewed, even though everyone said it was pointless. "Thanks, Jae-ho," Do-hyun said, starting to push his cleaning cart toward Sector 7. "But first, I have to clean up some scientists' coffee." As he walked through the station's corridors, people moved out of his way without looking at him. It was funny how wearing a maintenance uniform made you almost invisible. 5 years ago, these same people would have asked for his autograph. Do-hyun Kim, the pilot who could thread a needle with a spacecraft. Now he was just the guy who cleaned up their messes. The science lab was a mess when he got there. Coffee had gotten everywhere, even up on some of the computer screens. As Do-hyun cleaned, he listened to the scientists talk. They were excited about something they'd seen on their deep space scanners. "The readings don't make sense," one of them was saying. "It's too big to be an asteroid. But it's not moving like a ship. Whatever it is, it's drifting closer to the station," another replied. "We should tell command." Do-hyun's ears perked up, but he kept cleaning. Being invisible had its advantages. People said all sorts of interesting things around the cleaning staff. Later that night, Do-hyun sat in the old simulator, his hands on the controls. The screen showed a starfield, and he could almost pretend he was really flying again. He practiced emergency maneuvers, complex docking procedures, and asteroid field navigation. Some people thought he was crazy for keeping up his skills. But Do-hyun had a feeling deep in his gut that someday those skills would matter again. In his tiny cabin that night, Do-hyun looked out his small window at the stars. The scientist's words kept playing in his mind. Something big was drifting out there in the darkness. Something that didn't move like a normal ship or asteroid. He pulled out his tablet and checked the maintenance schedule for tomorrow. Sector 12 needed cleaning, the restricted area near the debris field monitoring stations. Perfect. As he lay down to sleep, Do-hyun smiled. Tomorrow might be just another day of pushing a mop around a space station. Or maybe, just maybe, it would be something more. Do-hyun started his morning shift early, pushing his cleaning cart toward Sector 12. The restricted area was usually empty this time of day. Perfect for exploring without questions. Jae-ho was already waiting by the security door, pretending to fix a broken light panel. "You sure about this?" Jae-ho asked, swiping his maintenance card through the reader. "If Captain Nae-young catches us poking around the monitoring stations." "You heard what the scientist said yesterday," Do-hyun replied, wheeling his cart through the door. "Something big is out there." Don't you want to know what it is? The monitoring room was dark, except for the glow of screens showing the debris field. This was where the station tracked all the space junk floating nearby. Do-hyun walked to the main console while Jae-ho kept watch at the door. "Look at this," Do-hyun whispered, pointing at one of the screens. "That's no piece of space junk." The object was huge, almost as big as Space Station Horizon itself. Its shape was wrong for an asteroid. Too smooth, too regular. As Do-hyun zoomed in the camera, his heart started beating faster. He could see metal plates, damaged but definitely artificial. "Jae-ho, come here," he called. "Tell me I'm not seeing things." Jae-ho walked over, and his mouth fell open. That's a ship. But I've never seen anything like it. Those markings aren't from Earth or any of the trading companies." Do-hyun's fingers flew over the console, taking measurements. The ship was drifting slowly, tumbling end over end. Its hull was scarred with what looked like ancient battle damage. But underneath the damage, he could see hints of incredible technology. "We need to report this," Jae-ho said. "Wait." Do-hyun pointed to a particular section of the ship. "See that shape there? That's a pilot's viewport. I've seen something like it before. In the old war records they showed us in pilot training. This isn't just some random alien ship. This is a warship, a really, really old one." Suddenly, the door slid open. Both men jumped as Captain Naehyung walked in, her face stern. "Would either of you care to explain what you're doing in a restricted area?" she asked. Do-hyun stepped forward. "Captain, you need to see this. There's something in the debris field. Something important." Naehyung looked at the screen, her expression unchanging. "It's space junk. We've been tracking it for days. The scientists already reported it." "No, look closer," Do-hyun insisted, zooming in on the viewport again. "This is a warship. The design matches records from the last border war, 300 years ago. This could be the most important discovery in human history." "Mr. Kim," Naehyung said coldly, "you are a maintenance worker, not a pilot anymore. Leave the analysis to the experts. Both of you, get back to your assigned areas now." As they walked back to the main corridors, Jae-ho looked worried. "Maybe we should just forget about it." But Do-hyun couldn't forget. He spent his whole shift thinking about that ship, about its strange design and ancient battle scars. That night, instead of going to the simulator, he went to the station's library and pulled up every record he could find about the last border war. The more he read, the more excited he became. The ship in the debris field matched descriptions of vessels that had appeared briefly during the war, helping humanity fight off an unknown enemy before disappearing again. Ships that had shown technology far beyond anything humans had ever seen. In his cabin that night, Do-hyun made a decision. If Command wouldn't investigate the ship properly, he would find a way to do it himself. He had the skills. He had the access codes from his maintenance job. He just needed the right moment. That moment came sooner than he expected. At exactly 3:47 a.m. station time, every alarm on Horizon started screaming. Something was coming out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Something big, and it wasn't friendly. The space station's alarms woke everyone up. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor as Do-hyun ran to his workstation. He wasn't supposed to leave his quarters during emergencies, but he had to see what was happening. Through the huge windows of the main observation deck, he saw them. 5 massive ships had appeared near the station. They were black and sharp-looking, like giant arrowheads made of metal. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. "All station personnel, report to emergency stations." Captain Naehyung's voice came over the speakers. She sounded calm, but Do-hyun could hear worry in her voice. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The observation deck's screens lit up with a message. It wasn't in any human language, but somehow the words changed into English as they watched. The message was simple: surrender this station or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes to decide. Do-hyun watched as the station's defense teams ran to their posts. They were powering up the station's weapons, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. The station's guns were made to fight off pirates and asteroids, not warships like these. All civilians proceed to the escape pods, Naeum ordered. Security teams to your positions. Engineering, prepare emergency shields. People started running past Do-hyun, carrying whatever they could grab. Children were crying. He saw Jiho helping an old man toward the escape pod section. The first shot from the alien ships was just a warning. It hit the space near the station, but even that was enough to make the whole station shake. The station's shields flickered as they tried to handle the energy from just that nearby hit. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen, someone said over the radio. Shields are already at 60% from just the energy splash of that warning shot. Do-hyun ran to the nearest computer terminal. Using his maintenance codes, he pulled up the debris field sensors. The old warship they had found yesterday was still there, floating silently. He looked at the alien ships again, then back at the ancient warship's design. Something clicked in his mind. He ran to find Captain Naedung. She was in the command center, trying to talk to the alien ships. "Captain," he shouted, "those markings on their ships, they're the same ones shown in the war records. These are the enemies that the ancient warship fought." "Kim, get to the escape pods," Naeum ordered. "This isn't the time for your theories about that piece of space junk." Another shot rocked the station. This time it was real hit, though just a small one. The lights flickered, and several systems went offline. Shields at 15%. Someone shouted, "We can't take another hit like that." "Begin full evacuation," Naeum commanded. "All personnel to escape pods immediately. I'll stay to coordinate the retreat." Do-hyun looked out the window again. The alien ships were moving into attack positions around the station. Then he looked at the debris field, where that ancient warship was floating. It had fought these enemies before. Maybe, just maybe, it could do it again. "Captain," he said quickly, "that piece of space junk might be our only hope. It's a warship that was built to fight these exact enemies. Let me try to reach it." "Absolutely not," Naeum said. "Get to an escape pod. That's an order." Do-hyun stood straight and looked her in the eye. "With respect, Captain, you already took away my pilot's license. You can't take away my choice to try and save these people." Before she could stop him, he turned and ran from the command center. He had maintained his pilot's skills all these years for a reason. Now he knew why. The station's maintenance airlocks were near the debris field. If he could just reach that old warship, if he could somehow power it up. Behind him, the alien ships launched their first full attack. Do-hyun ran through the shaking corridors of Space Station Horizon. He knew every shortcut after years of cleaning them. Another explosion rocked the station, and he had to grab a wall to stay standing. The maintenance airlock was just ahead. "Kim," a voice called. He turned to see Engineer Yuna running toward him. She was the station's best engineer, always kind to the maintenance staff. "What are you doing?" "The escape pods are the other way." "I'm going to that old warship in the debris field," Do-hyun said, punching in his maintenance codes to open the airlock prep room. "It's our only chance." Yuna stared at him for a moment. "You're crazy," she said. Then she smiled. "I'm coming with you. You'll need an engineer if you want any chance of starting that ancient thing." Together, they pulled on spacesuits from the maintenance locker. These weren't fancy exploration suits, just simple ones for fixing things outside the station. But they would work. "The alien ships are focusing on the station's main sections," Yuna said, checking their suit radios. "They're not watching the maintenance airlocks. Not yet." They stepped into the airlock. Do-hyun's heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He had trained for space walks hundreds of times as a pilot. Through the airlock's small window, he could see the old warship floating about half a kilometer away. "Ready?" he asked. Yuna nodded. "Ready." The airlock opened. They pushed off together, using their suits' small thrusters to guide them toward the ancient ship. Behind them, Space Station Horizon's shields were failing. The alien ships were still demanding surrender. As they got closer to the old warship, its size became clear. It was huge, at least twice as big as the station. Its hull was covered in strange patterns that seemed to glow faintly, even after all this time. There, Du-hyun pointed. That looks like an emergency entry port. He recognized it from his study of old ship designs. They changed course slightly, aiming for the small door in the hull. The entry port had no power, but Yuna pulled out her tools. Standard mechanical override, she said, working on the door. Some things never change, even with alien ships. The door opened with a silent puff of ancient air into space. They pulled themselves inside, and Yuna sealed the door behind them. The ship's emergency systems still worked. The small room pressurized automatically. Amazing, Yuna whispered as they took off their helmets. Everything's still working after all these years. The inside of the ship was dark, but as they moved, lights started to come on slowly. The corridors were huge, made for beings larger than humans, but the controls and doors were just the right size. This ship, Du-hyun said, I think it was made to be used by different species. Look at how the controls are arranged. Multiple sizes, multiple types. They found their way to what had to be the bridge. The room was full of dust, but as they entered, screens started lighting up one by one. A soft blue light filled the room, and something hummed deep in the ship. The ship's waking up, Yuna said, moving to what looked like an engineering station. But these controls, I've never seen anything like them. Do-hyun walked to the center of the bridge. There was a chair there, sized perfectly for a human. As he got closer, the whole room seemed to get brighter. He sat down, and screens lit up all around him. Words appeared in the air, not English, not any human language, but somehow he could understand them. Welcome, pilot, the words said. Emergency protocols activated. Weapon systems online. Awaiting your command. Through the bridge's giant windows, they could see the alien ships attacking the station. Do-hyun put his hands on the controls. They felt right, like they were made for him. Yuna, he said, I'm going to need all the power you can give me. We have a space station to save. The ancient warship's bridge hummed with power as Do-hyun tried to understand its controls. Screens floated in the air around him, showing information in strange symbols that somehow made sense to his mind. Yuna worked quickly at the engineering station, her fingers dancing over the controls. This is incredible, she said, her eyes wide with excitement. The ship isn't just old. It's teaching us how to use it. Look at how the symbols change to help us understand. Do-hyun nodded. The ship's computer was changing its displays to match how they thought. When he reached for a control, the right information would appear, as if the ship knew what he needed. I found something in the ship's records, Yuna called out. This ship belonged to something called the Guardian Fleet. They protected many species, including early humans, from dangerous empires that wanted to take over the galaxy. Another explosion lit up space outside the bridge windows. The alien ships were still attacking Space Station Horizon. Its shields were almost gone now. We need to hurry, Do-hyun said. He put his hands on the main controls. The ship responded instantly, its engines coming to life. How are we doing on power? Main reactor is at 60%, Yuna replied. Weapons are charging. But Do-hyun, these weapons are like nothing I've ever seen. They could destroy those alien ships with one hit. We have to be careful. Do-hyun carefully moved the huge ship. Years of simulator practice were paying off. Even though this ship was alien, the basic principles of spaceflight were the same. The ship moved smoothly, its systems responding to his every command. Suddenly, a new screen appeared in front of them. It showed Earth, but not the Earth they knew. It was Earth from thousands of years ago. They watched as ships like theirs protected ancient humans from alien invaders. That's why the controls fit us so well, Yuna said softly. Humans were part of this Guardian fleet. We were one of the species they protected. Maybe even one of the species that helped protect others. The ship's computer showed them more. The hostile aliens attacking the station were called the Destroyers. They were an old enemy that the Guardian fleet had fought many times. The Destroyers would find peaceful worlds, attack them, and take their resources. The ship is giving us all this information for a reason, Do-hyun said. It wants us to understand what we're fighting. A warning alarm sounded. One of the alien ships had noticed them moving and was turning to attack. Do-hyun's hands tightened on the controls. Weapons are ready, Yuna reported. But we still don't know exactly how they work. The ship is trying to show us. But there's so much to learn. We'll have to learn fast, Do-hyun replied. He looked at the alien ship coming toward them. Remember what Captain Naeum always says, the best way to learn is by doing. The ship's computer seemed to agree. New screens appeared, showing weapon controls and defense systems. The information flowed into Do-hyun's mind like he was remembering things he had known long ago. Look at this, Yuna said excitedly. The ship doesn't just have weapons. It has shields that can protect the station too. If we can extend them. She didn't finish her sentence. The alien ship fired its first shot at them. Do-hyun reacted instantly, moving their ship in a way he had practiced thousands of times in the simulator. The hostile beam missed them by meters. Weapons locked, he said calmly. Shield systems ready. Time to show these destroyers that humanity remembers how to fight back. The ancient warship's engines glowed brighter as they prepared for their first real battle. Behind them, Space Station Horizon's last shields were failing. They had no more time to practice. It was time to prove that a human pilot and engineer could bring this Guardian ship back to its true purpose, protecting the innocent from those who would destroy them. The first shot from the destroyer ship lit up space like a small sun. Do-hyun moved the ancient Guardian ship sideways, dodging the blast easily. His years of practice in the simulator were paying off. The moves came naturally to him now. Their weapons are charging for another shot, Yuna called from the engineering station. Our shields are at full power, but I don't know how strong they really are. Let's not find out just yet, Do-hyun said. He pushed the ship into a spinning dive, a move that would have torn any human ship apart. But this ship moved like it was alive, responding to his smallest touch. The destroyer ship fired again and again, but couldn't hit them. The other 4 enemy ships were still attacking Space Station Horizon, not seeing the ancient warship as a real threat yet. That was their mistake. Weapons ready, Yuna reported. The ship is suggesting something called a warning shot mode. Do it, Do-hyun said, bringing their ship around to face the nearest destroyer. The Guardian ship's weapons fired. A beam of blue-white light shot out, passing just in front of the enemy ship. Where the beam went, space itself seemed to bend and twist. The destroyer ship quickly backed away. That got their attention, Do-hyun said with a smile. All 5 ships are turning toward us now. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the station's radio calls. People in the escape pods were watching the battle. Captain Naeum's voice came through clearly. Unknown ship, this is Captain Naeum of Space Station Horizon. Whoever you are, thank you for the assist. We're evacuating civilians now. Do-hyun wanted to answer, but there was no time. All 5 destroyer ships were attacking at once. Their black ships moved in a circle around the Guardian ship, trying to trap it. Shields holding at 90%. Yuna reported as enemy fire hit them for the first time. This ship is incredible, but we can't take hits forever. Do-hyun nodded, his hands steady on the controls. Time to show them what this ship can really do. He pushed the Guardian ship straight up, then cut the engines and spun it around. The move surprised the destroyer ships, leaving one of them open to attack. Do-hyun fired a full power shot. The blue-white beam hit the destroyer ship's engines. Instead of exploding, the enemy ship just stopped working, drifting helplessly in space. Perfect hit, Yuna shouted. Their power systems are completely shut down, but the crew is alive. The other 4 ships attacked harder now, realizing how dangerous the Guardian ship was. Du Hyun kept moving, using every trick he had learned in his years of practice. The Guardian ship's weapons fired again and again, not destroying the enemy ships but shutting them down one by one. But one shot from the destroyers got through. It hit Space Station Horizon's last shields, breaking through them easily. Part of the station exploded, and Du Hyun could see people still trying to reach the escape pods. Captain Nae-young is still on the command deck, someone shouted over the radio. She won't leave until everyone else is safe. Do Hyun made a quick decision. Yuna, extend our shields to cover the station. I'm going to end this now. The Guardian ship's shields stretched out like a glowing blue bubble, surrounding the damaged station. Du Hyun turned to face the last 2 destroyer ships. The ship's computer showed him a new weapon option, something that would shut down every system on the enemy ships at once. Hold on, he said, and pressed the button. A wave of energy shot out from their ship in all directions. When it hit the destroyer ships, they went dark instantly. The battle was over. But on the station's command deck, Captain Nae-young had been hit by falling debris while saving a young crew member. As emergency teams finally reached her, Du Hyun knew their fight was just beginning. The destroyers would send more ships when they learned what had happened here. He looked at the Guardian ship's controls, glowing softly under his hands. At least now, humanity had a way to fight back. News of the battle spread quickly through the human colonies. Everyone wanted to know about the human pilot who had found an ancient warship and used it to save Space Station Horizon. Du Hyun tried to stay out of sight, focusing instead on helping repair the damaged station. The stories are getting bigger every day, Jai-ho told him, as they worked together to fix a broken corridor. They're calling you the Guardian pilot now. Some people even made videos of the battle from the escape pods. Do Hyun just nodded and kept working. He was still wearing his maintenance uniform, but people didn't ignore him anymore. They stopped to thank him, or just to stare. Yuna spent most of her time studying the Guardian ship, learning its secrets. She found ways to link the ship's advanced technology with human systems, making the station's shields much stronger. The ship wants to teach us, she told Do Hyun during one of their daily meetings. It's like it was waiting all this time for humans to find it again. A week after the battle, Commander Hansol arrived from Earth Defense Force headquarters. He was a tough-looking man with gray hair who had fought in many space battles. At first, he didn't believe that a former pilot turned janitor had defeated 5 advanced alien ships. Show me, he ordered Do Hyun. They took the Guardian ship out into deep space. Do Hyun demonstrated everything he had learned about the ship's capabilities. He showed how it could move in ways that should be impossible, how its weapons could disable other ships without destroying them, and how its shields could protect entire stations. Commander Hansol watched silently. When they returned to the station, he made an announcement that surprised everyone. Earth Defense Force is creating a new division, he said. We're calling it the Guardian Revival Project. Mr. Kim will train new pilots to fly these ships, if we can find more of them. Engineer Yuna will lead the technical team. But sir, Do Hyun said, we only have one ship. Hansol smiled. Look at these. He showed them pictures from deep space telescopes. They showed more ships, similar to theirs, hidden in different parts of space. They're out there. We just need to find them. Captain Nae-young was still recovering in the medical bay. When Do Hyun visited her, she was sitting up in bed, looking at reports on a tablet. I was wrong about you, Kim, she said. And wrong about that piece of space junk too. The destroyers have attacked 3 more colonies since our battle. We need more pilots like you. News came in from other human stations and colonies. The destroyers were attacking more often now, angry that humans had found a Guardian ship. But something unexpected was happening too. Every time Do Hyun flew out to help defend a colony, more people joined the resistance. It's not just about having better weapons. Du Hyun told a group of new pilot trainees. The Guardian ship showed us that humans were once part of something bigger. We helped protect others. We can do it again. Yuna made another amazing discovery in the ship's database. The destroyers aren't just attacking humans, she said. They're attacking any peaceful species they find, just like they did thousands of years ago. Then we'll protect those species too, Du Hyun said, just like the Guardians did. The resistance grew stronger every day. Earth's best pilots came to train with Du Hyun. Brilliant engineers worked with Yuna to understand the Guardian technology. Commander Han Sol organized search missions to find more ancient ships. But the biggest surprise came from deep space. A message arrived at the station, using frequencies that only the Guardian ship could detect. The message was simple. We see you have remembered. Others remember too. We are coming to help. Do Hyun stood on the observation deck, watching his trainees practice in the Guardian ship. Soon, they would find more ships. Soon, they would meet others who remembered the old ways of the Guardians. The galaxy was changing, and it had started with a janitor who never stopped believing he would fly again. The Guardian ship's main screen filled with strange symbols as Yuna worked at her station. She had spent weeks trying to unlock the deepest parts of the ship's database. Now, finally, something was happening. Du Hyun, come quickly, she called over the radio. You need to see this. Do Hyun was training new pilots when the call came. He left his student in the simulator and rushed to the Guardian ship. When he reached the bridge, he found Yuna staring at a huge star map floating in the air. Watch this, she said excitedly. The map changed, showing Earth thousands of years ago. Small dots of light appeared, showing Guardian ships protecting Earth from space threats. We knew they protected us, Du Hyun said. The ship showed us that before. Keep watching, Yuna replied. The map changed again. Now it showed humans flying Guardian ships, working together with other species to protect the galaxy. Earth was a major base for the Guardian fleet. We weren't just protected by the Guardians, Yuna said softly. We were Guardians ourselves. Humans were one of the main species in the Guardian fleet. The ship's computer confirmed her words. Long ago, humans had shown great skill at spaceflight and a strong desire to protect others. The Guardian fleet had chosen them as one of its primary species. But what happened? Du Hyun asked. Why did we forget? The next images were sad to watch. They showed the destroyer's biggest attack ever. The Guardian fleet fought bravely, but the enemy had too many ships. Earth was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. The few Guardian ships protecting Earth hid themselves, waiting for humans to advance enough to find them again. That's why this ship responded to you so well, Yuna said. It recognized your genetic markers, markers that all humans still carry from those times. We've always been Guardians. We just forgot. Suddenly, all the ship's systems lit up bright blue. A new screen appeared, showing all its weapon systems and special abilities. Things that had been locked before were now open to them. The ship's AI has fully accepted you as a Guardian, Yuna explained. It's giving us access to everything. Do Hyun sat in the pilot's chair. The controls felt different now, even more natural than before. He could feel the ship's full power ready to respond to his commands. Just then, Commander Han Sol rushed onto the bridge. We've found something, he said, showing them a datapad. Our deep space probes found a massive fleet of destroyer ships heading this way, bigger than anything we've seen before. How many? Du Hyun asked. Over 100 ships, Han Sol replied grimly. They must have called in every ship they have. They're determined to stop us from bringing back the Guardian fleet. Do Hyun looked at the star map, still showing the ancient battles. Then he smiled. They're not just trying to stop us, he said. They're afraid of us. They remember what humans can do. A new message appeared on the main screen. More signals were coming in from deep space, using Guardian frequencies. The other species who remembered the old ways were arriving. Their ships were older, not as powerful as Duhyun's, but they were ready to fight. "Look at these readings," Yuna said, checking the new signals. "Some of these ships are being piloted by species we've never met before, but they all know about the Guardians. They've all been waiting for someone to stand up to the destroyers again." Do-hyun stood up, looking at the star map one last time. Their ancestors had protected the galaxy once. Now it was time to do it again. "Send a message to all Earth colonies," he told Hansol. "Tell them to get their best pilots ready. It's time for humanity to remember who we really are." The final battle was coming, but this time, humans wouldn't face it alone. The Guardian fleet was returning, and Earth would lead the way. The space around Earth filled with ships from both sides. The destroyer fleet came first, their black ships blocking out the stars. Over 100 warships, all ready to end humanity's return to the Guardian ways. But they weren't facing just one Guardian ship anymore. 20 more ancient ships had been found and restored. Their pilots had trained with Do-hyun, learning the old ways of space combat. And now ships from other species were arriving too, their old Guardian vessels coming out of hiding to join the fight. "All ships report ready," Yuna said from her station on Do-hyun's bridge. She had trained other engineers too, but she insisted on staying with the first ship they had found. Captain Nae-young, now fully recovered, spoke from her new position on Earth's Defense Command. "The destroyers are sending a message. They say this is our last chance to surrender." "Send them our answer," Do-hyun replied, his hand steady on the controls. The Guardian ship hummed with power around him. "Tell them the Guardian fleet protects the galaxy again. Tell them to leave or face the consequences." The destroyers responded with action. Their fleet moved forward, weapons charging. But Do-hyun was ready. The restored Guardian fleet moved to meet them, with his ship in the lead. "Remember your training," he told the other pilots through the command channel. "We're not here to destroy them. We're here to protect others. Use the Guardian weapons to disable, not kill." The battle that followed was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The destroyer ships were powerful, but the Guardian vessels moved like they were dancing through space. Blue-white beams flashed everywhere as Guardian weapons fired, shutting down enemy ships one by one. Do-hyun led from the front, showing moves that seemed impossible. His ship spun and dove between enemy vessels, its weapons striking with perfect accuracy. Other pilots followed his example, working together in ways that felt as natural as breathing. "The destroyers are trying to break through to Earth," someone called over the radio. "Not today," Do-hyun said calmly. He pressed the controls, and his ship's special abilities activated. A wave of energy spread out from his vessel, connecting all the Guardian ships together. Their shields merged into one huge barrier, protecting Earth completely. The destroyer fleet commander, seeing this display of power, tried one last desperate attack. 50 ships fired at once, aiming at Do-hyun's vessel. But at that exact moment, every Guardian ship fired back. Their combined blue-white beams met the destroyer weapons in space. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. Then the Guardian weapons pushed through, spreading out to touch every destroyer ship. One by one, the black vessels went dark, their systems completely shut down. The battle was over. The Guardian fleet had won. In the days that followed, big changes came to the galaxy. The disabled destroyer ships were captured, their crews treated fairly. Many other species came forward, revealing Guardian ships they had been protecting for centuries. Earth became the center of the new Guardian fleet, just as it had been long ago. Captain Nae-young became humanity's first representative on the new Guardian Council, where different species worked together to protect peace. Commander Hansol led the effort to find and restore more Guardian ships. 1 month after the battle, Do-hyun stood in Space Station Horizon's main hall. The station had been fully repaired and made into a training center for new Guardians. Ji-ho was there too, now in charge of maintaining the station's new Guardian technology. "Hard to believe it all started with us finding that ship in the debris field," Jaiho said with a smile. Do-hyun nodded, watching through the window as training ships practiced nearby. Engineer Yuna was out there too, teaching others about Guardian technology. The ship they had first found was docked at the station, its hull gleaming like new. The ship knew what it was doing, Do-hyun said. It chose a janitor because I never gave up on being a pilot. It chose humanity because we never gave up on exploring space and helping others. He touched the Guardian fleet symbol now worn proudly on his uniform. It was the same symbol he had once cleaned off station corridors. Now it meant something again, protection for those who needed it, and hope for a better galaxy. The Guardian fleet had returned, and this time, it was here to stay.